Hello, good morning. It's just gone 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th of January. I'm just out on my bike again to explore the green stop line. Last line of defence in 1940 to protect the port of Bristol and its docks at Avonmouth. So previously I've been exploring fortifications along the green stop line between Radstock and Midford, where it runs along the course of the Wellow brook. Today I'm going to trace its course as it climbs out of the Wellow brook at Midford Hill, summits and then drops down to the Avon Valley at Freshford. It's pretty spectacular, so I hope you'll enjoy coming along.
Spinning whispers through the black.
We're just going to enter the shorter of the two tunnels. The shorter in the direction I'm heading anyway, from my hometown of Bath out towards Midford. And I'm filming on my new DJI Osmo Action 5 camera. And the first time out I was really impressed with its quality inside Coombe Tunnel. So I want to see what it's like inside this one. I've got my light dipped. Very soon curve round to the southern portal and we're coming out into Lincoln Vale. So all these old heritage boards along the route telling you more about the line, but today I'm exploring a different line, theoretical thin green line, the green stop line. So I'll stop at a picnic table, tell you a little bit more about today's ride, and then we'll get on with it. Gosh, when I was at school over there, Beeching School, this is part of my cross-country course all around here. Many years ago, but I can still remember it. So this is the beautiful Lincoln Vale in between the two tunnels. Just before we go into the longer of the two tunnels, Coombe Tunnel, there's its portal there. There's a picnic bench. I'll just stop here, tell you a little bit about the context of the green stop line, as from now on I'm going to call it the thin green line, and what we're going to do today, why it's quite interesting, how it relates to my plans later in the year, and then we'll actually go out and do it. If you haven't seen the previous videos, this is what's known as the GHQ line. It was rapidly constructed fortifications in the event of an enemy invasion in the autumn of 1940. You can see all these huge lines, and the one I'm particularly exploring is that semicircle crescent around Bristol that was known as the green stop line, which conveniently for the purposes of this video is actually green. So it started south of Burnham-on-Sea at the mouth of the River Brue, followed the River Brue, crossed the Mendips. At the summit of the Mendips it followed the course of the Somerset and Dorset Railway down to Midford, which is where we're going today. It climbed out of the Midford Valley across what they call Limpley Stoke tongue, and then it drops down to the Avon Valley at Freshford, where the River Frome actually flows into the River Avon before it then continues on its arc. That's what we're going to be exploring today. This is more of a close-up. These were the fortifications embedded, overlaid onto Google Maps. So it's very easy to explore certain parts. So just a little bit of context. The start date construction began almost immediately after the Dunkirk evacuation in late May, early June 1940, under the orders of General Sir Edmund Ironside, who was at the time Commander-in-Chief of Home Forces. It was built ever so quickly, and that includes the whole national line. To give you an idea, of the intensity, there were at least 28,000 pillboxes, as well as many trenches and anti-tank obstacles, and that was completed between June and August 1940. That's incredible. That's a phenomenal rate of construction, isn't it? But then look, end of strategy. By September 1940, the strategic focus shifted. General Alan Brooke replaced Ironside in mid-July 1940. I think this country owes a huge debt of gratitude to that man. He may not be as famous as, say, Montgomery, Rommel, Patton or Zukov, but I just believe this country owes that general a huge gratitude of debt. Brooke believed linear defences like the GHQ line were a relic of World War I thinking and ineffective against mobile German panzer tactics. Consequently, while some finishing work continued into late 1940, the strategic priority for the line effectively ended in September 1940 as the focus shifted to nodal points, defended towns and mobile reserves. If you think about it, the flaw in a fortified line, a fixed line of defence, is you've only got to breach it in one or two places, and in effect it's ineffective, isn't it? You've only got to look at the German tactics in the Second World War. They simply bypassed the Maginot Line. Conversely, they spent huge amounts of money and manpower and resources in the so-called Atlantic War, which was breached many times in one day. That one day, of course, being June the 6th, 1944, D-Day. So vast amounts of effort went into building it, and then by the time it was finished, it was virtually obsolete because of change of strategy. If I zoom into that map with all the overlays, you'll see there is the green line climbing out of the Wellow Valley, crossing the A36, and then it drops down sharply to the Avon Valley. That is in fact the River Frome coming up as it curves round, and near Freshford station is where it flows into the River Avon. So we'll have a look back at some of these today, and then we'll drop down steeply, and there's 7 pillboxes there. I believe we can get to at least 4. I'll explain why the other 3 are possibly inaccessible. But anyway, let's carry on, and I'll speak to you near the summit of Midford Hill. So we're going to join the Bath to Hinton Charterhouse Road here, the B3110. You may see it's quite busy. Just as we pass Bath Natural Burial Meadow, I'm going to zoom over and ride up the pavement that side of the road, because I'm going to be going around the left hand turn here, and you're literally blind to cars no matter how brightly I'm dressed. And also I want to just get off and stop and look as well. So it's a little bit narrow, you need to take a little bit of care, but as I keep saying, this bike is ideal for this sort of riding. So pardon the road noise, you do get little bursts of traffic. That's looking back up at Midford Hill. Don't know if you can see that band of mist hovering the tree line. We're now about halfway up the hill, and if you look at those woods there, you may see a line of trees leaving it. That's the course to the old railway, and by that yellowy orange field there, if you come down, there's another row of trees. That's the Wellow Brook. Just behind this mound here is where the green stop line leaves the course to the Wellow Brook and starts climbing up here over that hill up there, which is where we're heading. That's a lovely bit of winter sunshine. The rays really do feel warm on my face. Even though there's all this ground frost and hedge frost, that sun's got a lot of power behind it. I can feel the warmth on my face. Look at the shadows it's casting. On this S-band, can see the first pillbox of the day right in front of me there. So the Wellow brickwork down there is starting to climb up out of the valley. There's one of them, and there's another one somewhere around the edge of these trees here. Whether I can see it or not, I don't know. I'm going to try looking through the binoculars. So the line's coming up through there. As we reach the summit around this bend, you may see a van coming down it along there. There'll be another one and another one. So that's the start of the green line for today. So looking down at that pillbox, see if I can zoom in. Right in front of us there. And that's what we're looking down on, that one. That one there is somewhere in those trees. I can show you if I go over to satellite view. Can you see? It's just in those trees somewhere. I've got the binoculars. I'm going to see if I can spot it, but I don't think I will somehow. But I can see lots of footpaths going across there. In a few weeks' time, I'm going to be an old age pensioner. It'll be my 66th birthday in less than a month. That means the day after that, I'll be going down and getting my bus pass, which is what I'm going to do to explore some of the stop green line. Rather than trying to drag my bike across these fields, I'm going to get the bus out and spend a day walking all up through here, and a few more I'll show you up over there. So I've just checked through the binoculars. I cannot see it in there, plus that I'm being dazzled by the sun. I'm going to carry on up this side on the pavement, which is much safer than riding up on the left hand side blind, and when we get over the summit I'll talk to you there. We're now at the top of the hill, and that's the pillbox I was looking at earlier on. There's the one in the woods, and then somewhere along here, it may just be below the ridge line, there will be another one, and then it crosses over the road, and it's actually in a paddock on that farm over there. Now when we get along a little bit, we'll be able to look at that pillbox there side on, and then beyond would be the woods, which I will get a bus out soon after my 66th birthday, walk up through those woods, cross the road there, and walk over the Hogs Woods towards Hinton Chartrace. So we'll stop along here, get a view of that one side on. So the course of the thin green line is coming up here along there towards Freshford that way. We cannot take that today because it's footpaths. I can't really ride it. I'll do that on a walking trip when I get my bus pass. What we can do is go along the Hinton Chartrace about half a mile, turn left and run parallel to it. So joining this road to the A36 near Freshford is like a link road. We ride along there. But before we do that, we just stop along here and I'll show you that pillbox over there. When I get my bus pass in a month's time, after I've walked up to these woods, there's a footpath through there, and I'll go and explore Hogwood. Can you see there's a cluster of 3 in there? And there's also some very defined anti-tank trenches. They would have been much deeper in their day. They're partially filled in, but by all accounts you can clearly see the course of them. So what we're going to do, we're going to go along to Hinton Chartrace, run parallel to it, and take Branch Road it's called. Then I can take a little bit of pavement down that very busy A36, and that's where the fun really begins today. That's the precipitous drop down into the Avon Valley. Just a bit further along, with the sun on my back, you can probably see my shadow. There's the edge, the boundary of the woods. I'm guessing the pillbox is somewhere along the boundary of those woods, just over the brow of this hill maybe, or obscured by those woods. But if you cross the other side of the road, see that farm there, small paddock area, and that tree, there's a brick structure there. That's its buddy pillbox. See if I can zoom in. Just to the left of that tree there, it's got a little slide behind it. Meantime, we're going to ride along to the next village, Hinton Chartres, and it's about 3/4 of a mile away. Turn left, head over to the A36, which is running parallel to this road. We'll join it very briefly. I can pavement that, and then the stop green line will go through those woods and we'll join it on the other side over there. So 3 sides of the square really. Because visibility is good along here, I'm going to get back on the road about 3/4 of a mile up to Hinton Chartres. Here we are, coming into the small village of Hinton Chartres, where we'll get off this busy road. So you can see this road goes on to Norton St Philip. We're going to turn left here where those 2 vans are going. It's a link road across to the A36, which is even busier than this, but we'll only be on it very briefly and we can pavement that. Starting to suss out all the bus stops for when I do my bus stroke walking trip. Okay, just a few hundred yards along. Watch this ice here. Yeah, just a few hundred yards along and we'll be turning off the busy roads for today. Hopefully the rest of the road's going to be a lot quieter. So we're coming into the edge of Hogwood here. We'll be rejoining the invisible thin green line where that car has just turned from. So that wasn't too bad, pavement, that busy road. We're going to drop down through the small hamlet of Sharpstone and then continue along past Freshford Mill to the village of Freshford. That's where the River Froome merges into the River Avon. Sharpstone's an apt name. It's a very sharp descent down there and you do literally drop like a stone. I'll film that as I go down. Anyway, down Abbey Lane. So we're back into a misty valley which hasn't caught the sun yet. You can feel the dampness straight away. This is Rosemary Lane. So we're turning down into Rosemary Lane and this is precipitous down here, very, very steep. And we're going to start picking up pillboxes along here. A couple of them I'm not sure if we'll see, but a few we definitely will. So one of them is somewhere around here off to the left. One of them is just behind this wall here. I've looked on Google Maps but I cannot see it. Somewhere along here. But again, this is people's private property here. I'm not going to trespass. But somewhere just about there is one of the pillboxes, and then there's another one down here which is again on private property. Just along here. It literally says here private beyond here, so no through road. This is the stop green line coming down this really steep hill. This is the small hamlet of Sharpstone. We're going to drop down a little bit further just before we get to the River Froome. There's another turning down there and there definitely is a pillbox there. We can go and have a look at that close up. and it's got cameras attached to it. I think that's what they are, cameras, or maybe some kind of traffic sensors. I'll show you when we get there. You can make your own mind up. So we're going to go back along here. It really does drop steeply down to the hamlet of Sharpstone. Then just before we get to the river, we're going to take a right down there, and I'll show you the first of the pillboxes that you can actually see from public roads in the Avon Valley. Okay, back along to Rosemary Lane, and the really steep sharp drop through the aptly named Sharpstone. This really is pretty precipitous down here. Can't see any ice or frost, but I'm certainly riding it cautiously. A lot of moss on the ground, water flowing off the hills there. Just be so easy to fall off down here. We're going to continue down here. Just before the foot of the hill, we're going to turn right up this road, which turns into a bridleway within spitting distance of Freshford Mill, and there's a pillbox along here. Right on this corner, and it's got some sort of sensors and wires going into it. Whether that's a camera or a traffic sensor, I'm really not sure. Let's go and have a look. Almost down at river level, the river through. You can hear the river from here. There's this type 24 pillbox. That's a roughly hexagonal type. It's quite overgrown, but there must be some access to it. Can you see all the wires going in? I don't know whether these are cameras or they're traffic sensors, but there seems to be some kind of control point in there. It's all wired up. The other day when I came here, that looked like a camera. Now it looks more like a traffic sensor. I'm not sure what that is actually. As I've become aware, quite often pillboxes were built in pairs to support each other. So there's two further up there near the top of the hill and halfway down, which we couldn't see. We could only estimate roughly where they would have been. There's this one, and then there's another one down on the river level. We can see it from the opposite bank. This gives a good idea of their construction. I've been reading up about them. Quite often they were brick lined on the outside, but there'd be reinforced concrete behind it, or sometimes wood, and then the inside would be heavily reinforced. That gives you quite a good idea as the masonry's deteriorated and started to fall away. Brick straight up to reinforced concrete. So we're going to go back to that steep hill. We're almost at the bottom. You'll see Freshford Mill as we ride along. I'll put the chest camera on for that, and just as we join the course of the river, we go over a bridge, then you'll see the buddy pillbox, the one it's paired up with, just along there, less than a quarter of a mile away. I think this gives you a good idea of what they may have looked like in their day actually, if they'd been used. There's quite often eyelets and hooks screwed into them where camouflage would have been attached, nets maybe. But you can see how that would be quite easy to ride by and miss actually. You can hear the running water there at Freshford Mill. Looks like it's having a lot of structure work done on it, lots of scaffolding around it, hoardings. And we're almost at the bottom of this really steep hill down at river level. Can you hear the water drop there? Looking over at the mill. That really is such a steep drop down there. I was taking it very cautiously today. Risk of ice or moss, slippery leaves, that sort of thing. It's a beautiful little hidden away valley though. And here's the bridge cutting across the river, which we've just gone across. There's the mill. Gosh, having a lot of money spent on it. And this is the River Froome, on its way to merge in with the River Avon at the next village. And over there is the brother, over there You can see another Type 24 pillbox. That looks in remarkably good condition. We've just come down that really steep cliff face almost. You can see where some of the houses are, even they're not at the top, they're part of the way up. We went off to the left, saw that pillbox, dropped down the final few feet of elevation, joined the river, crossed it there at the bridge, right opposite the mill, and along here you can see there's the buddy pillbox, so that one back there. That looks like it's slightly subsiding. I wonder if that's going to go into the river for much longer. It looks like it's slightly leaning. Just to recap here, about the halfway point of today's ride, about 2 miles over that way would be the Wellow Valley. Stop line green, the thin green line, climbed steeply up out of that at Midford Hill, went through Hogswood. We rejoined it at the A36 just as it starts dropping down steeply into the Avon Valley at Sharpstone. And here you can see it's going to start following the course of the river. This in fact is the River Froome, just before it merges with the River Avon, and then the stop line green will follow the course of the River Avon through Bradford on Avon up towards Chippenham. So we've got 2 more pillboxes coming up shortly. So we're going to go around here, reach a T-junction, turn left, shortly be in the village of Freshford, and then there's 2 really good views of pillboxes. One of them we can walk up close to. Okay, it's quite damp and cold in this wooded valley. That sun earlier on was really bright and strong, and it had some warmth to it. I'm just going to go along here a bit to a T-junction, turn left, and then we'll be in the village of Freshford. Okay, here's our T-junction. Going to turn left here at the foot of the hill, which would be going up to Iford. Back into a very cold, frosty looking landscape with mist in the valleys. And there's our next pillbox on the left. Stop in this gateway and we'll have a look at it. Oh, back into the sunshine. Instantly change of temperature, you can feel it. And there's our pillbox right in front of us. See a defined footpath almost up to it. So it's that real contrast between quite damp, cold, misty roads, then you come out into the open where the sun's breaking through and it's much warmer. So we've just come along there, turn left at T-junction, and you get a really good view at this gate of the next pillbox in front of us. This is one of a pair for Freshford. I'm going to walk along that footpath. We're going to have a close-up look. This footpath looks quite wet, but it's not actually because of the frost. It's quite hard and crunchy. Literally just behind the field there, over there, 20 yards away is the River Froome. Just see the wooded hill line there. There's a gap in the trees, white house sticking through. That's the way we've come down. That was the big drop down to Sharpstone. Then there was that pillbox we've just visited by the river bridge near the Freshford mill. And here we are. This fairly well preserved Type 24 pillbox. I say fairly well preserved, it's got a massive split crack down the side of it. That's the ivy damage that I'd imagine. Gosh, yeah, that is. So the outer facing, the brickwork's been forced out, but the concrete you can see there. Yeah, as they start to deteriorate, you can definitely see the layers. Look, there's the aggregate of the concrete. Gosh, massive piece of metal coming through there, so they were reinforced with steel, almost like rendered faced with brickwork. Here it is, look, overlooking the River Froome. What's inside? And the next one is literally just along there. Before we cross the river, on the other side of the road, we're going to have a look at the companion pillbox to this one. There's the L-shaped door into it, a blast door. Spray paint in there. People are obviously been in there. So line of sight all the way through. Look how misty the valley is. Love winter days like this. Fess up time. I came out to film this video last weekend on the Saturday. Today's the following Wednesday, and I totally messed up. I openly admitted what I was doing. For safety reasons, I rode this circuit in the opposite direction, and I said I would be visiting the first of the pillboxes at the end of the ride and like commentating, and then in vice versa, and it was just so difficult to do. I made so many mistakes. When I got home from that ride, to compound it, a book I'd ordered from my local bookshop, Harry in Morning Road, Oldfield Park Bookshop, great independent bookshop, we use them all the time. It had arrived, and as I started reading up a little bit about the stop line green, I realised I'd made so many mistakes. So I just wiped all the footage and decided to come out today and refilm it. And I actually realised it's just as safe to ride it this way. There's pavements I could ride on, so hence this is my second attempt. So it's why I roughly know where everything is, because I'd already been out Saturday and done a recce, a failed attempt at a video. Saturday was the sunnier day. Definitely the footage looked quite spectacular, even though my commentary was all over the place and quite often wrong, factually wrong. But today is definitely more atmospheric, I think. The contrast between the mist, the blue sky and the sun. Just before we get to the road bridge there, a few hundred yards along on the left, on the same bank of the river, but on the opposite side of this little road, will be our next pillbox, the companion of that one. Gosh, there was a lot of people walking here the other day on this weekend, but there seems to be quite a few people today on a midweek weekday. A couple of other things of interest I want to share with you here as well. One historical fact and one personal anecdote. So that's the pillbox we've just left over there. And just before we get to the river bridge, there's another kissing gate, and there's a pillbox there, much more overgrown. Let's go and have a look at that one. It's private land, but there is a public footpath. No access to the river, no picnicking. But this area, this is definitely popular with walkers. I saw a lot on Saturday, and today being a midweek weekday, there's still quite a few about. Call that mist there, that almost line through the mist where it's rising with the sun. And just along there, not as easy to spot from a distance, this one, there's another type 24 pillbox companion to that one we've just seen along there a few hundred yards. Look at that amazing steamy effect, whereas as the sun's rising in elevation, it's already thawed this, and it's gradually thawing all the frost off that field. It's like walking into a cloud. Here's our pillbox here. Much more overgrown, this one. There is a footpath round to it, but it clearly says back there, please no access to the river. So I just sort of think it's not right, I should go down there. Once again, you can see where the brickwork's coming away, the outer facing, and you see the concrete structure. So although they look quite vulnerable from the outside, actually they're not. They were really, really heavily reinforced. So literally just a few hundred yards along from that other one, by the river, The book I picked up on Saturday then is called War Walks, written by Major, I think it's Martin Green, and it's Stopline Green. And there's so much detail in there, it's unbelievable. I learned so much from reading that. Briefly, it was said the British realised the Panzer, the tank tactics had been so effective in the first phase of the Second World War, they needed to try and either stop them or slow them down while they could bleed their supply lines. And so they used natural obstacles like rivers, railway embankments, canals, that sort of thing. Where there wasn't natural obstacles, they would build fortifications, man-made ones like pillboxes, dragon's teeth, anti-tank cubes, that sort of thing. But they tried to use the lie of the land as much as possible. In the pre-construction survey, there actually mentions that the limestone geology, and they weren't sure how easy it would be to dig anti-tank trenches. They probably wouldn't be able to use manpower. They would actually have to get mechanical excavators in to dig. So there's quite a thorough survey, and the book also lists every single structure, lots of photographs, including one today that we won't get to, but I can show you a copy of that. And there's also suggested circular walks, and that one of them is the one I want to do through Hog Wood. So it's a fantastic book, so thanks very much to Harry, my local bookshop owner, for getting me that. Okay, as we cross the River Froome into the village of Freshford, there's a little bit of motoring history here. Can you see those two signs? There's a 1930s standard sign and a 1960s War Boys. There's not many of these 1930s standard signs left. That's what road signs used to look like. Then they were redesigned in the 1960s under the War Boys Commission. As motoring grew in popularity, they just needed more distinctive signage, including the reflectiveness. So 1960s, 1920s stroke 30s, right next to each other. Right behind these contrasting signs, looking back in the direction we've come, if we turn around 180 degrees, there's the inn at Freshford. Little personal anecdote about motoring there. My girlfriend at the time took me for a celebratory meal in there. The evening I passed my motorbike test. I passed first time actually, much to my own surprise. So yeah, good memories coming back here. So I've got the internet back now actually, I lost it for a while. So we're down in Freshford here. There's the two down Pleasant Lane. That's the ones we roughly know where they are, but we couldn't locate them. There's that overgrown one with the either the camera or the sensor, traffic sensor in there. There's the one opposite the mill, just after we passed over the bridge. There's the first one at Freshford, and then there's the second one at Freshford. Look, there's the inn at Freshford. So we're going to climb out now, but there is another pillbox there, but I don't think we'll get access to that. In fact, I know we won't. So it's down a no-through road that takes you down to Freshford station. So we're going to ride down there, and I can point you over at that one, but I know it's under a bridge because there's a photograph of it in this book that I got on Saturday. I wondered why I just couldn't see it. I tried all different sorts of angles, and it's actually built underneath the bridge. We're going to go around here, start climbing out of the valley really steeply, but part of the way up we're going to turn off to the right, go to a no-through road down to Freshford station. We're going to go round to the left, past the inn at Freshford, start climbing up the hill out the valley, but before we do that we turn off right, go down to the station. It's at the end of the no-through road. And just as it was a steep drop down in this valley, it's a fairly steep climb out of it. Going up past an old chapel by the look of it. This is where the gradient really kicks in up here. So this village was used in that 1950s Ealing comedy, The Titfield Thunderbolt. So although the railway station was over at Monkton Combe, they used this village for a lot of the residential scenes. And we're going to take this right hand turn down to the station, which appropriately is called Station Road. And the reason I'm going down here is because where the railway crosses the river and this last pillbox today is, that's where the River Frome flows into River Avon. And then the Green Line would carry on following the River Avon, and it also have the Kent and Avon Canal as an anti-tank obstacle, plus the cuttings and the embankment of the railway. Hello. So until recently, I'd never been down here before. I'd never needed to. I passed through on the train before many times, but I'd never ridden down this road. Gosh, right, there's the railway station right in front of us. You can only just see it because of the mist. Gosh, so atmospheric down here, especially all the sheep buying. So there's the railway station there. All the mist in the valley, because we're about to join the Avon Valley. The River Avon comes along there. We've been following the River Frome since we dropped down through Sharpstone, and then the River Frome will flow along there about half a mile or so, and that's its confluence into the River Avon. It joins the River Avon, so the River Avon's come from the left from the Bath direction. It's heading right towards Bradford-on-Avon. And then the stop line green will actually follow the course of the River Avon. So it's using natural obstacles like rivers, there's the canal the other side, railway embankments, railway tunnels, anything like that, anything that would slow or stop the progress and advance of tanks down. So that's the railway going along there. Can you see the hill line there, the tree line? Just over the other side would be Bradford-on-Avon by road, but the railway and the river and the stop line green follow the valley and curl around to it that way. Can you see the clearing and the trees up there? There's a big white house up there. Gives you an idea of how steep the valleys are. There's a few more houses along there. So just along from the end of the station, about a quarter of a mile, that railway will go over the river bridge. That's very close to the confluence of the Frome into the River Avon, and underneath that bridge is a pillbox. I don't think you can see it from a distance. You certainly won't see it on a day like today. Our visibility is about 150 yards. But there's a picture in Major Green's book, which I'll show you a copy of now. That picture in Major Green's book of that pillbox underneath the arch does acknowledge the fact that although it's sheltered by the bridge structure, it very severely limits its firepower. Although that's the last of today's pillboxes on the stop line green, there's one other place I'll show you. So we're going to climb out this valley, drop down through the village of Limpley Stoke, and then we'll be very close to the River Avon there, and there's a bridge over there, and that would have been heavily fortified according to all the research I've done, and it would have probably been dynamited to deny access to any advance if the enemy got that far. So we'll go and have a look at that bridge. So back to the steep climb out of Freshford. So for some bonus material along here, I can show you some of the locations of the 1950s Ealing comedy, The Titfield Thunderbolt. They would use this location for the village scenes. That very distinctive tower over there, right by the gate of the church. So Freshford was used for the village scenes, although Monkton Combe, our next village, would have been where the railway station was and a lot of the train scenes. You may see this is very steep up here, but luckily very soon we're going to turn right and drop down into the adjoining village on the other side of the hill, Limpley Stoke. So we're going to do a right at this T-junction and almost immediate right hand turn to drop off this hillside. See what I mean? Going to turn down towards Limpley Stoke. So you've just come in from the left to the other side of the railway, cut across here, and this bridge would have been heavily fortified and very likely demolished with explosives, dynamited in the event of an enemy advance if there had been an invasion of England. Of course the River Avon's very, very high here. Gosh, look at that bank of mist. I've just climbed up above that and then dropped down through it, and now I'm out of it again. The difference in temperature is just unbelievable. You can really feel it on your face. I can feel it on my arms as well as having a long sleeved base layer on. I've also got thin arm warmers and this thick winter cycling top. I can still feel the difference in temperature going from sun to mist to sun. And that's the other side of it. That's the River Avon heading towards Bath. And that's just looking back the way we've come. So yeah, this bridge could well have been demolished with explosives. This would have been fortified as an addition to the Green Stop Line. And I also read the river crossing at Monkton Combe was also heavily fortified and would have been demolished. So just the other side of this hill would be the village of Monkton Combe. So we're going to go along that. We're going to go along to Monkton Combe. We're going to follow the course of the railway embankment along, join what used to be the old Titfield Thunderbolt Railway, and then we'll head up to Monkton Combe School. I need to do a right hand turn on this bend, which is why I'm holding back here. There's the old course of the old railway, the Titfield Thunderbolt branch, and we're very shortly going to get on its track bed through here. Need to be really careful here. Right hand bend on the main road. And here we are, of course, of the Titfield Thunderbolt Railway. It's one of the famous scenes where I think they're chasing the bus because there's competition between supporters of the railway and the coach firm, and you see the train chasing the bus at this bridge. You see, this is definitely the course of an old railway. This railway would have originally ran through the village of Monkton Combe, continued on through the valley. Nowadays it pretty much stops around here because the old station that you see used as the old station at Monkton Combe, used in many of the scenes in the Titfield Thunderbolt, has now been obliterated. There's a tennis court for the school built on top of it. But if you see this cricket pitch here, there's a famous scene in that of a cricket match where the train goes by and the bowler gets bowled out because everybody's looking up at the train. My old art teacher, Mr. Exton, told me that was him. He was part of Coombe Down Cricket Club at the time, and they were used as extras in a film, and he was that batsman. You'll see here, this is the grounds of Monkton Combe School, and just up here the old course of the railway just suddenly ceases, because where the station was is where the tennis courts have now been built on top of. You see all the nets around it, where those two vans are, that's now tennis courts for Monkton Combe School. and that's the site of the old railway. And we have access up to the school, but you do have to push. Obviously there's lots of school children walking through, so it's a permission footpath, which needs to be treated with respect. They ask you to push, and I always do. So you come up from the school grounds, and we can get back on our bike here at this minor road at the foot of yet more tennis courts. So we've just avoided a really busy and steep road junction back there. But I don't know if you can see just beyond the trees, that's the school observatory in there. This feels like riding through something like Oxford or Cambridge. I love coming through here. We're now just about to leave the village of Monkton Combe. See those green fields and that tree line up there? That's Brassknocker Hill. It's a really steep, notorious hill coming in and out of Bath. You can just see the top, some cars going up it. In the 1990s, on a weekday afternoon, me and a few mates come out here to watch the Tour of Britain come out there. I remember seeing Sean Kelly and Stephen Roach power up there side by side. That was pretty impressive. So instead of going around here this S-bend, as we head back towards the two tunnels, I wanted to show you this. This is St Michael's Church, or should I say the gateway to it. In my early days of making YouTube videos, I tried to finish a video here. I'd been out filming the aqueducts along the Kennet and Avon Canal. I never ended up posting that video, I can't remember why, but I didn't. But I was just filming here, and this lady came along, and I sort of felt a bit like a naughty schoolboy. I felt I'd better explain what I was doing. And she sort of said, "Oh, have you come to see the grave of Harry Patch?" I said, "No." She said, "Do you want to?" And I said, "Yeah, please." So she took me through the churchyard, took me into the church, sort of said, "There's toilets here if you ever need to use them. Would you like a coffee? If you're ever passing, just come and help yourself to a coffee." It's just a lovely lady. Then she took me to see the grave of Harry Patch, the last English Tommy from the First World War. So we'll walk through now and I'll show you, because it actually cuts through the churchyard, cuts out a bit of a road corner as we head back towards the Two Tunnels Greenway. Look at that view, looking back up the valley. And where those people are, that's where the grave of Harry Patch is. Seat there with this lovely view on a sunny day. I quite often come here and just spend time here actually. There's a grave of a Second World War para there, she showed me, from the village. Edward George Munday Parachute Regiment. I tried to research briefly the details behind the death of that paratrooper, but I hit a brick wall and I just decided not to take it any further. And there's Henry John Harry Patch, born 17th of June 1898, passed away on the 25th of July 2009, aged 111, last survivor of the trenches of the Great War. Just going to spend a moment of reflection here and remembrance. First World War, Second World War. Okay, leaving this very poignant sight. Gosh, you can just hear so much wildlife and birds in the trees as we leave this gate. A couple of cyclists going up there. So we've just avoided that slight drag up there. We'll join the course of our route back to Bath this way. If I had not have cut through the churchyard, the road would have come along here and then climbed up Summer Lane that way to Combe down at Bath. Quite a long drag up, then quite a fast blast down. But I've just cut through the churchyard, and that hedgerow along there will take me to Tucking Mill, and I can get on the Two Tunnels Greenway there, as it suggests Tucking Mill Lane. But I love that view across there of that farmhouse. All the smoke coming out of it on a cold frosty morning like this. That was Beale's farm in the Ealing comedy Titfield Thunderbolt. If you're familiar with the film, the train followed the course of the Cam Brook. It's called the Cam Valley line, and it came along there, and there was a fictional water tower there which had been sabotaged by the railway's competitors, And when they realised, they thought, oh no, the train's going to blow up unless we get some water, and they formed a daisy chain up there, a human daisy chain, getting buckets of water from that. That was called Beale's Farm. I always think of that. It's a classic part of that film, actually, running up and down the fields with buckets of water. But you can just see these lovely folds of the valleys. That's what we've been exploring today, just going up and down over these hills. When I first started cycling, all the way through my teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, early 50s, if I was coming back this way, it was a long old drag up over Coombe Down, Summer Lane that way, and then the big drop down into the Bath itself. Nowadays, of course, we can go through Coombe Down, underneath it, rather than going over it via the Two Tunnels Greenway through Coombe Down Tunnel. I always think the Two Tunnels Greenway, meaning I can ride home from Bath when I'm at my most tired and I just want to get home. I can go underneath Coombe Down rather than go over it. That Two Tunnels Greenway appeared at just the right time in my life as I'm starting to age. I want the easier route home at the end of a ride. I hope you've enjoyed today's scenery. It's been quite atmospheric, just the weather conditions. Little oasis in between lots of wet weather. We had rain yesterday, there's more torrential rain coming in tomorrow, so I've made the most of this little gap. I've decided I want to trace all of the Stopline Green Run, the whole 95 miles of it, from the Bristol Channel at the mouth of the River Brew, just south of Highbridge and Burnham-on-Sea. I'm going to follow it round in an anti-clockwise direction all the way round to just south of Gloucester, where it joins the River Severn at Arlingham Bend. But my main project for the summer is to trace it up over the Mendips. So everything I've been doing up to now really has just been practicing for when I do that. I still haven't decided whether that's going to be a walking camping trip or a cycle camping trip. As I said, when I get my bus pass, I think the world's going to open up lots of opportunities for me. If you've got this far, thanks very much for watching. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.